In this video, I'm going to be sharing my PSP collection with you guys. It's nothing huge, it's 25 games, but there are definitely some titles in here I think you guys should check out. Now, it's a great time to collect for the PSP because there's a ton of great games that you can get for dirt cheap. In a lot of cases, you can still find new and sealed games online for like $10 in some cases, but I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. So let's get into this. First up, we have Adventures to Go. I think this is kind of like might be a hidden gem on the platform. I never hear anybody talk about this game, maybe because it's nothing mind-blowing or spectacular, but I think it's pretty fun. You play as this arrogant kid who's always talking trash to everybody he meets, and it's kind of funny in a messed up way. But he decides to become a hero, this adventurer for hire, and not for any noble reason, but just because he wants to make a lot of money. So what you do is you take on jobs from the people in town, and it's basically fetch quests. People are looking for items that are dropped by monsters. So you accept the job, you go out and you fight these monsters, you look for the monsters and fight them until they drop the item, and then you make money. But it plays out kind of like a hybrid dungeon crawler. You're kind of going in these small areas, dungeon-like areas, and running around looking for stuff, and then you get these random encounter battles, and it turns into like a tactical RPG. It plays out on a grid, these battles, so it's all very accessible, it's very simple, but it's pretty fun and addictive too. It's a game that you can easily jump into for a few minutes at a time, which is great for being a handheld game, but you can also definitely sink some hours into it if you want to. Next up, we have Burnout Legends. I love the Burnout series, especially around like the Burnout 3 era. And this one is really impressive for being on a handheld. It really feels like a full-on console experience. They really nailed it in terms of how the game feels. It looks really good. I mean, you have some graphical pop-in and stuff like that, but it really feels like a full console game. If you haven't played the Burnout games before, it's all about crazy, fast, dangerous arcade racing, and it rewards you for driving dangerously. So when you perform drifts, when you drive on the wrong side of the road, and best of all, when you run other cars off the road, you're rewarded by boost. And so you use your turbo boost to just drive faster and faster. You have regular races, and then you have all kinds of different challenges, like how many cars can you run off the road, or maybe you play as a cop one level and you're trying to pursue, a runaway driver. There's a lot of different challenges in the game, a lot of different cars to unlock. Just a super good racing game, so check it out, Burnout Legends. Next up, we have Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. This is one I just had to have in my collection. Ever since I saw this game back in the day when it came out, I always wanted to play it, never got the chance. So here I am now, and I'm still in the early stages of the game, but basically it's a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. Instead of playing as Cloud, you play as Zack. And it's got some really nice visuals, really nice audio, voice acting, and stuff like that. It doesn't play like Final Fantasy VII. This one is more of an action RPG. My impressions of the game may change as I go on. Like I say, I'm just starting it right now, but from what I can tell, it has a lot of emphasis on combat and a lot of cutscenes. Not a lot of exploring. The areas you explore are very small, very contained areas. It doesn't quite feel like a typical Final Fantasy game. Much more action-oriented and just a lot of cutscenes, but like I say, my thoughts may change as I go further into the game. Still super happy to finally have this game in my collection and get to try it out. Alright, next we have Crush. This is an interesting one. This is actually from Sega. It's a puzzle platforming game. You play as this guy who's been hospitalized for insomnia, and you get hooked up to some experimental machine that kind of puts you in this weird subconscious state. You're kind of in a dream world, and you're trying to navigate these environments, these puzzle-like environments. But the catch here, and the gimmick, I guess, is that you can switch between 3D and 2D perspectives, and depending on how the camera's angled when you make that switch into 2D or 3D, it alters the way the environment is laid out around you. So maybe you can't make a jump because the platform is too far away. Well, if you position the camera just right and then swap to a different dimension, then you can get to that area. I haven't played very much of it, but yeah, I don't know if my brain's going to be smart enough for this one, but it seems very cool, unique concept, and seems like it's pretty well done. Alright, next up we have Daxter. Now, I really like the Jak and Daxter games on the PS2, and it's nice to see Daxter have his own game on the PSP. They even dropped Daxter out of the titles of Jak 2 and 3, so kind of sad. So this is Daxter's time to shine, but this is an interesting one. It's a fully 3D platforming game. Daxter has gotten separated from Jak, and he's working as an exterminator. And there are all these like crazy bugs all over the place. They're like robotic bugs. I don't know, but from what I've played, it's pretty impressive though. Some of the environments feel really expansive, and the whole thing really does feel like a PS2 game. That's one of the things that just still marvels me about the PSP, is that it's like having a PS2 in your pocket basically. Just the stuff that this little handheld could pull off. Very impressive. And yeah, Daxter, if you're a fan of the Jak and Daxter games, or if you just enjoy action platformers, this one is definitely worth checking out. This is one I got brand new sealed, I think around $10, maybe between $10 and $15 on Amazon, I believe. So definitely check that out if it's still available. Next up we have another puzzle platformer. This one is Exit. This was actually published by Ubisoft, and I had this one back in the day when I first had my PSP. And I really enjoyed it. It was a budget game back then, and it's still a budget game today. Yeah, you play as this kind of professional escape artist. You basically go into these buildings that have, maybe the buildings is on fire or something, and you have to find a way out of the building and rescue all the hostages along the way. A lot of cool puzzle mechanics, finding items, and you can kind of command the people you save. You can lead them to interact with things a certain way and use teamwork to get out of the building. Very cool game. I love the visual style, kind of minimalist comic book, kind of film noir-ish, kind of classic detective comics look to it. Yeah, cool game. Definitely good for a handheld, being the levels are pretty short. You can just jump into it for a few minutes at a time if you want to do that. Alright, next up we have Fat Princess, and this is another one I got sealed very cheaply. And this is a hard one to talk about. This is a hard one to explain because I still haven't wrapped my head around it. But it seems to be sort of a real-time strategy game with some kind of action hack and slash elements to it as well. It's very, it's more than meets the eye for sure. There's a lot going on with this one. But you have a bunch of different kind of game types. You have like a capture the flag mode, but in this case it's more like capture the princess. You have levels where you have to go collect cake and feed it to your princess and all this weird stuff. It's a really bizarre game, but there's so many characters just clashing all the time. You have your team, and then there's an enemy team, and you're constantly battling it out. You're trying to capture territory along the way, outposts on the map, and gather resources, and there's so much going on. I really haven't wrapped my head around it at all, so I think I'm gonna need to watch somebody else play this a little bit so I kind of understand it better, and then I'll go back into it again. It looks like it's probably a really good game that I'm just too dumb for, but this was a pretty highly regarded one when it came out. And the Fat Princess even came out on the PS3's, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale as one of the characters. So yeah, it seems to be a fan favorite. Maybe another underground hit right here, but anyways, moving on. Final Fantasy Tactics. I loved Final Fantasy Tactics on the PS1 growing up, and I'm so excited to have this one on the PSP. But if you don't know about Final Fantasy Tactics, it's a isometric grid-based tactical strategy game. Very, very deep character customizations. Do whatever you want with your characters. You can change classes. They have so many different classes where you can level up and learn different abilities, and cool storyline. Just such an addictive strategy game. So definitely, if you haven't played any of the Final Fantasy Tactics games, I recommend you do so. Next up we have K-On! So this is an import game. One of the cool things about the PSP is that it's not region locked. You can import games from any region and play them on your device. So this is a Japanese game, and it's based on the anime K-On! I actually picked this up because my daughter's a huge K-On! Fan, and we have the PS3 version of this game. Cool thing is that you can play multiplayer by connecting the PSP to the PS3, and one person plays as one of the characters in the band on the PS3, and then somebody else plays as a different band member with a different instrument on the PSP. And it could get really expensive this way, but the idea is you could connect, I believe, 4 PSPs to the PS3 and you could have the full 5-piece band. Everybody's playing on their own device, but as a team or competitively. All that aside, it is a music rhythm game based on an anime. And if you're really deep into music games, this is probably going to be an easier one for you. You might skip this one, but if you're a fan of K-On!, then definitely it's worth picking up. It's a decent game. You're seeing here some really easy gameplay footage, but you can unlock harder songs as you go on, harder versions of the songs, so it's cool. There's a lot to do, some cute story bits, but I don't really know what they're saying, but easy to play the game even without knowing Japanese, so. Next we have Killzone Liveration, another one I got new and sealed. I think it was about 10 or 12 bucks. Very cool. The Killzone series, of course, is a series of first-person shooters. First appeared on the PS2, moved on to the PS3 and even the PS4. Very popular series, at least at one point it was. They took the FPS and turned it into more of a top-down action shooter, and I think it was a good move. It plays very well. It's a lot of fun. You can run around, you can take cover, you can interact with the environment in different ways, picking up items, of course shooting at bad guys and following different objectives. It looks great, it sounds great, it plays great. Definitely worth a pickup. Alright, next up we have Kingdom of Paradise. This is a Sony produced RPG. It seems like it has some really good production values. It looks good, it sounds good, a lot of voice acting in this one, and yeah, it's sort of like a martial arts action RPG with a lot of swordplay and some cool characters. So far I like the graphics, the kind of anime character designs, and it seems like it has an interesting story so far, but I haven't really dived deep into this one yet. Looking forward to it though. It's another one I got sealed for around 10 bucks. Definitely worth checking out, I think. Next up we have LocoRoco. This is one of the more iconic games on the PSP, I think. This game just took everybody by storm back in the day. There's nothing else quite like it. It's almost obnoxiously cute. The visuals and the music and everything is just such a peaceful and relaxing game too. Yeah, this one's guaranteed to make you a little bit less depressed, I think, unless you just hate it. You might just be completely turned off by it, by all the cutesiness, and just want to throw it out the window. I don't know. But it is a pretty unique game. You play as these little blobs, and basically you're going throughout these levels looking for fruit and items, and you kind of eat the fruit and you get bigger. And you don't really walk around as a blob, but you control the environment around you, so it makes you roll when you tilt the environment, and then you can also jump, so that's kind of how you navigate. It's tricky for like 30 seconds and then you just get the hang of it and it's super easy, but as your blob gets bigger, you can actually split yourself into multiple little blobs, and that'll be necessary to get through some of the environments and stuff. It's a little hard to explain, but it is a very fun, very relaxing, very accessible game for just about anybody. And like I say, it's one of the iconic, more memorable titles on the PSP. It's another sealed copy I picked up for, I think, between $10 and $15. I forget now, but yeah, LocoRoco, check it out. Here we have Monster Hunter Freedom 2. I don't have tons of experience with the Monster Hunter games, and I really haven't gotten into this one yet, but I did try and get some footage for you guys, and obviously I skipped a bunch of things. I didn't equip my armor, and I didn't know what I was doing here, but it's basically what you'd expect from Monster Hunter. You create your character with some very questionable fashion choices, and you go take on quests and you go hunt these big old monsters and you explore these different areas. It all looks very, very nice on the PSP, and it plays much like the earlier Monster Hunter games that I remember anyways. There's a lot to this one and I haven't even scratched the surface, but pretty much everybody by now, they know about Monster Hunter, so here's a Monster Hunter game on handheld, and it's pretty cool so far. Next up, MotorStorm Arctic Edge. Here's another great racing game. This is an off-road racing game. This is another one I got sealed for about, I think, 12 bucks. And I'm breaking the seal here on the video because the emulation footage I tried to capture, let's just say it had some strong graphical glitches and I don't want to give anybody seizures. So you're going to see me here trying to play it on the PSP while balancing the camera, and it was a bit of a challenge, but anyways, it's an off-road racer. It's also available on PS2, but I'm really impressed with the quality of this game on the PSP. Again, it feels like a console experience. It's an off-road racing game, and the catch here is that all the tracks are basically in snowy environments. And you get to race around in all kinds of different vehicles, from buggies and ATVs to bikes to cars and trucks. The tracks are all very fun, and they all have different routes you can take. So depending on your vehicle and depending on how things are going, you really get to try and pick and choose what is the fastest route. Many forks in the road, you know, and just different branching paths to explore. And it's just really fun. It's a very well-made game. Definitely check it out, MotorStorm Arctic Edge. Here we have a different one. Yeah, it's a golf game, Pangya Fantasy Golf. I guess Pangya, I think, is like a Korean game franchise that I'm not familiar with, but I just kind of checked this one out on a whim. I like the anime style graphics here. But yeah, it's a pretty fun, pretty simple golf game. Another one that's easy to just relax. It's a very relaxing game. There are a bunch of different characters. They all have their own stories. You can unlock many of the characters as you go. You can upgrade your golf clubs as you go through the story mode. You can upgrade your equipment and change the appearance of your character. There's a lot to do here. So I think there's going to be a lot of replayability trying to unlock all those characters and all the gear and everything like that. And it's just a really pleasant game. I mean, it's a simple arcade golf game. If you like games like Mario Golf, you'll probably enjoy this one, especially if you like anime games and stuff like that. And this was a sealed game. I got it on eBay, I think around 12 bucks. Alright, here's Patapon. This is another kind of bizarre game, but very highly acclaimed, very beloved game on the PSP. They actually came out with 3 of these games. This is the first one. Basically, it's sort of a rhythm game, but it's not like any other rhythm game you've played. Basically, you are pressing different combinations of buttons to the beat of the drum, and you're playing the drum, and your drums are rallying these little people, these little creatures you're seeing. And you drum to the beat to march them on into battle, to have them move, to have them attack things or capture outposts and things. It's very interesting, and I was having a hard time capturing footage. I feel like there was some input delay or something, but definitely a very unique game, and it's worth checking out, even if you're just curious about what you're seeing here. Yeah, it's a very cheap game. I got it sealed for about 10 bucks. You can get it used for even less than that. Check it out, Patapon. Next up, we have Pursuit Force. Here's one that kind of blew my mind back in the day. I remember getting this game brand new, and then I would end up selling my old games, and now I picked this one up again. It's a really fun driving game. You actually play as this super elite cop who's in this kind of special group called the Pursuit Force. And you're in this city where it's just overrun by different gangs, and you're trying to stop the crime and clean up the city, and basically it's just one high-speed chase after another. There's a lot of driving around, shooting at other cars. The cool thing and kind of the gimmick here is that you can actually jump out of your car and jump onto another car, and then you can kind of like whip out your gun and shoot the driver and the passenger, and then hijack that car and then keep going. It's a pretty cool game. And then in some missions you might just be trying to get from point A to point B without getting blown up. A lot of different cool objective driving missions, and I've never seen another game quite like this one. It has a sequel too, but maybe I'll pick that one up another day. Next up is Puzzle Quest. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I like this game so much. It's a match 3 puzzle game. So yeah, like Candy Crush or something like that, but the cool thing about this is that it's not just a match 3 puzzle game, it's also an RPG. It has a lot of RPG elements. from a full-on story to character classes you can choose from, and they all are capable of learning different spells. You have this whole overworld map where you go from location to location. You can buy different items and accept quests, and then basically most of these quests revolve around battling different enemies, and the battles take place in this match 3 puzzle environment. Matching different colors will give you mana to power up your different spells. You have skull gems that you have to break in order to do damage to your opponents as well. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye, and it's strangely addictive. I know these kinds of puzzle games are made to be addictive, and there's a lot of hate for them, and that might have a lot of merit, but this is one I really enjoy, so check it out, guys. Puzzle Quest. Next up, we have Resistance Retribution. I haven't played much of this yet, but I'm very impressed with what I have. Of course, the Resistance games were a series of first-person shooters on the PS3. Really good games. I really enjoyed those as well. And yeah, this one's really impressive. They changed it from a first-person shooter to a third-person shooter, and it works really well. You control this one by moving around with the left thumbstick and then aiming with the face buttons, which works out really well. You get the hang of it pretty quickly. There's auto aim and stuff, which helps you. So the game looks really good. It has good voice acting and it's really fun action. They really capture that whole environment, the whole feeling of the console games, even though it's been changed up quite a bit to work well on the handheld. They did a really good job of it. I can't wait to get through the rest of the game. Very cool stuff. Resistance. Oh yeah, and I picked it up sealed, brand new, I think around $10, so bargain game. Here we have SOCOM Fireteam Bravo. I have kind of mixed feelings about this one. The SOCOM games are very nostalgic to me. Of course, on the PS2, I love those games, but to me it was all about the online multiplayer. That was such a mind-blowing, awesome, fun experience playing those games online on PS2 with voice chat. There was just nothing else like it at the time. Of course, the PSP servers are long gone, so you're stuck offline playing the campaign modes. And it's okay, it's not bad, but it feels a little dumbed down from the console games. It feels a lot easier. You have very heavy auto aim and the controls are just a little less than optimal, I would say. But it's okay, it's not bad. It's fun to run around and shoot some bad guys and whatnot. I picked this one up brand new sealed for under $10. I think it was about $8, so I couldn't resist, but I don't know, I might not hold on to this one. I'm not sure. Anyways, so here we have a couple of Syphon filter games. We have Dark Mirror and Logan's Shadow. I got both of these games brand new and sealed, bundled together for like $12, so I could not resist that deal. And from what I've seen so far, these are actually really, really well done games. So these are a couple of third-person shooters. You play as this spy. You have these kind of high-tech equipment and weapons on you. And it's really cool so far. The graphics are great, the game plays well, both of them do. They each have slightly different controls and things, but very well done. This was a series that was super popular on the PS1 and going into the PS2. In fact, I believe you can find both of these titles. I believe they were first made for PSP and later ported to PS2, but again, you have some pretty strong console-like experiences here on the PSP. Though they do suffer from not having a second analog stick. But they did what they could with the controls, and it's not too bad. Yeah, if you can get both of these as cheap as I did, then definitely grab them. Or if you're just a fan of the Syphon filter games, or you want some, you want another third-person action game on the platform, definitely check them out. They're very well done so far. Alright, I've got another Japanese import game, Taiko no Tatsujin. This is a drumming game. Yeah, we've had a lot of drumming and music games, haven't we? Nah, just a few. But this one's different. This is just full-on drumming game. You have a bunch of different songs and you're pressing the buttons, tapping to the beat as prompted to on the screen, as you would expect. A lot of the Taiko no Tatsujin games, and there are a lot of these games, but a lot of them have come with drum peripherals for their respective consoles in the past. I imagine that would be pretty cool to play, but I've only ever played it on controllers or on the PSP, and it's still a ton of fun. If you like rhythm games, definitely check it out. It's pretty easy to play even if you don't understand Japanese. Pretty simple game, very fun, very addictive, easy to pick up and play for a few minutes at a time or however long you want, so it's a good one. Taiko no Tatsujin. We're almost at the end of the list. Here is WipeOut Pure. This is the last sealed game I picked up, and it was about $10 also. Man, WipeOut Pure, this was just crazy to see these graphics on the PSP back in the day. This was one of the launch games for the PSP in the US and in Europe, and it was really a showcase to what the PSP could do. Even today, this game looks incredible, and it plays great. It's just a plain and simple, fun, futuristic, fast-paced arcade racing game. There are different speed classes. If you are thinking this game looks pretty slow, that's because I hadn't unlocked the faster speed classes yet. Super slick, flashy game. Tons of fun. If you like arcade or futuristic racers like this, I mean, I think everybody knows WipeOut already. The franchise was huge on the PS1, PS2. You know, I think it needs a revival. I think it's been a while since we've gotten a new WipeOut game, but tons of fun. Very, very slick game. Highly recommended. And finally, last game on the list, we have Worms Open Warfare 2. A huge fan of the Worms games ever since the early 2000s. My brother-in-law introduced me to Worms World Party on the PC, and yeah, I was just hooked instantly. I became a fan, and yeah, this is a good Worms game to pick up for handheld. You got your crazy, expansive roster of weapons. You can customize your own team. There's campaign mode. You also have pass and play multiplayer, which is pretty cool because it is a turn-based strategy game. I notice I've been talking less and less about these games as the list goes on. I think I'm getting tired. My apologies, but yeah, it's a turn-based strategy game, and the cool thing about it is you can play multiplayer with your friends just by passing the PSP back and forth between each other and taking turns. A very cool game. If you haven't played Worms before, you need to go check out some Worms games. They are brilliant. But anyways, those are all 25 of my PSP games. I'm pretty satisfied with my collection for now. I have more games than I have time for already. But there are maybe a small handful of games I will still try and pick up in the future. Definitely have my eye on Castlevania, though the price has really started to go up on that one. Maybe the Mega Man games. There are some titles that are a little bit more obscure and just out of my price range because they're so rare and sought after. I won't be picking up the Neo Geo shooting game for that reason, but I think it's really awesome just how many great PSP games there are out there and how many are so affordable still. So let me know. I would love to hear some of your favorite PSP games. What are some games I should add to my collection? What am I missing out on? Love to hear that from you. Thanks for watching today, and I will see you next time.